I get it, you're staring at a mountain of specs and wondering if splurging on a 64-core monster is really worth it for the kind of work you do. You've probably heard the hype about unlimited threads and blistering boost clocks, but you also know that buying the wrong CPU can mean wasted money, a noisy build, and a system that never lives up to its headline. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon, and I'm going to walk through the real-world considerations that decide whether the Ryzen Threadripper 7980X actually fits your workflow or ends up as a glorified paperweight. First off, let's set the scene for the kind of setup this chip lives in. The 7980X isn't a drop-in upgrade for a mid-range gaming rig. It expects a full workstation platform and STRX4 motherboard with 80 PCIe lanes, quad-channel DDR5 memory up to a terabyte, and a robust cooling solution that can handle a 350W TDP. If you're already planning a build with a high-end GPU, multiple NVMe drives, and perhaps a dedicated capture or AI accelerator card, the Threadripper's lane count becomes a real advantage. In that environment, the chip can keep all those devices fed without the bandwidth bottlenecks you might see on a mainstream platform. Now, who should actually press the Add to Cart button? If your daily grind involves heavy multi-threaded workloads, think 3D rendering farms, large-scale video encoding, scientific simulations, or compiling massive codebases across dozens of cores, the 64-core, 128-thread architecture shines. The automatic boost to 5.1 GHz gives you a nice burst when a single thread needs that extra headroom, so even software that isn't fully parallelized can still benefit. Content creators who regularly stitch together 8K footage, or engineers running finite element analysis that distributes tasks across many cores, will notice tangible time savings compared to a 32-core counterpart. On the flip side, if you spend most of your day gaming, browsing, or using office suites, the 7980X is overkill. Modern games rarely tap more than 8 threads, and the extra cores just sit idle, consuming power and generating heat. The 350W TDP translates to a louder cooling loop and a higher electricity bill, which most hobbyists won't justify. In short, the value proposition evaporates once your workload can't consistently saturate the core count. Let's talk about the practical strengths that matter after you've built the system. The sheer number of PCIe lanes means you can run a dual GPU setup for real-time ray tracing, add a high-speed NVMe RAID array, and still have room for a dedicated network or storage controller, all without sharing bandwidth. That's a concrete advantage for studios that need simultaneous rendering and storage access. The 320 MB cache is another hidden win. It acts like a massive middleman that reduces latency when many cores request the same data, which is exactly what happens in large rendering jobs. Users have reported smoother frame times in multi-GPU workloads because the CPU can keep the GPUs fed. But there are weaknesses you can't ignore. The unlocked nature of the chip suggests you could push it further with manual overclocking, yet the built-in automatic overclocking feature often hits the same ceiling, and any extra headroom demands a custom water loop or an industrial-grade air cooler. Without a cooler included, you're already adding a sizable expense to the total build cost. Additionally, DDR5 RDIMM support up to 1 TB is impressive on paper, but the latency characteristics of DDR5 can actually make some memory-bound tasks feel slower compared to high-frequency DDR4 on a lower-tier platform. If you're not pairing the Threadripper with the fastest DDR5 kits available, you may not harvest the full performance potential. Another hidden trade-off is the software ecosystem. While most professional applications have been optimized for Threadripper's architecture, some niche tools still lean heavily on Intel-specific instruction sets, meaning you might not see the expected gains without a software update. It's worth checking the latest release notes of the applications you rely on before you commit. The same goes for virtualization. The high core count makes the 7980X a stellar host for multiple VMs, but you'll need a hypervisor that can schedule resources efficiently, otherwise you'll just be wasting cycles. If you're on a budget, consider whether you truly need the full 64 cores. AMD's own 7950X, with 32 cores, offers a similar boost clock and a lower power envelope while still delivering strong multi-threaded performance. For many studios, that chip hits the sweet spot between cost and capability. The 7980X shines when you have a clear, sustained need for that massive parallelism, like a rendering farm where each core can be assigned a separate frame, or a deep learning research environment that runs multiple training jobs concurrently. Installation and daily usability are straightforward if you've already prepared the platform. The ACRX4 socket is physically larger than mainstream AM4 or AM5 sockets, so you'll need a cooler that can reach the socket's edges. Once the chip is seated, BIOS updates are crucial. Early firmware versions had issues with power delivery under sustained load, but recent updates have stabilized the voltage curves. After the update, the automatic overclocking generally settles at around 4.9 GHz under load, which is respectable given the